Simply put, I think this album is... It's not bad. It's a decent listen. I do have a few issues with it, which we will touch on near the end. But I think it's a very enjoyable listen from start to finish. Now, I'm going to go through the track list and then say my overall opinions, and then yeah. So, starting with track 1, that being Danger, we have Morgan Freeman introducing us to the album, where he just introduces himself and then says that he believes that Logic is the GOAT, and we are hit with this quite hard ass beat where Flex just gives off some great energy, it's kind of getting us comfortable and ready for what we're about to experience and the energy that this album has, really. And then after that we get Tetris, which Logic released earlier as the first single for the album. In Tetris, hard ass lyrics, just Logic being very lyric, just flexing his lyrical ability, and from the beginning to near the end I thought he did a very great job. I just felt the end was a bit of a disappointment, personally. But apart from that, definitely a very decent track. Great way to start off the album. Now, on to the third track, that being In My Life, featuring Action Bronson. Logic goes in talking about Cash and about his past. All very interesting, and I really did enjoy that. It's Action Bronson who just goes in and just really raps, not necessarily about anything in particular, but still doing a great job. My only issue is the song felt so very short, like unfinished to an extent. I feel like these artists could have spent a bit more time on their lyrics, maybe could have got an additional verse from each artist just to add a bit more to it, but apart from that, still a great listen. It's next we have the song Decades, where Logic also released this and as a second single for the album. Now, this is my own fault, but I feel like I personally put myself off this song due to the amount I was listening to it. As before the track was officially released, it was all over Logic's TikTok, and so what we mainly heard was that anytime on a lot of his videos. And so, in a way, I put myself off the track. It's not that bad, it's just personal. The way he talks about it, it's an old verse from his past. It's still quite good, I definitely recommend it. It's track 5, I believe, is J.J. Abrams, kind of a play on his name. He has a whole story as to why he is named it that. In this, it's just J.J. Abrams who talks about the stuff he has already heard from Vinyl Days, literally saying, if this is what retirement sounds like, whoo! Doing a great fucking job, Bobby. Something along those lines. And yeah, it's interesting, but again, I don't know if I'd go back to this skit personally, but that's just me. It's on track 6, we get Black White Boy, which not only do we get this really quite a good beat, Flex giving it all this energy, and then Logic. The first verse is just him talking about how great of a rapper he is. Yeah, he's known for pop stuff, but as soon as he grabs a mic, bars, lyrics, all that is coming at you. Then it's the second verse, he gets a bit more personal, talking about how people perceived him after he retired and how people perceived him before and how he was treated when he tried to add emotion and talk about his feelings onto records. He just did a really great job, and it definitely has replay ability. After Black White Boy, we have the track Quasie, where it's Logic doing an open letter to Madlib, telling him that he should go back into rapping, which I find kind of funny, as obviously Logic, after retiring, must have gotten so much of that himself from his own fans, telling him, oh, we want to hear you rap again and all that, so I hope Logic succeeds in what he was trying to do. Now the song, yeah, is a bit short, but that takes nothing away from it. It's a very good open letter short song. Apart from what Logic is saying, I think the beat is great as well, and I love the sample. And it's after that we get the track Bleed It, which was the 6th song off his album, where he takes a Beastie Boys sample and makes the hardest drums on this album, just this real hard ass hitting beat. Honestly, I'd say it's probably one of the best beats on the album, just through the energy. And whilst Logic doesn't come at it with metaphors and punchlines, he matches the energy the song has. Whilst not being as lyrical miracle, he's still bringing it, does a great job on it. It's after that we get the song LaDonda, which I'd say is probably the weirdest track on this album, as it starts off with Logic talking about how he's unretired, how he's going to be leaving Def Jam, becoming independent. That's all fine. It's when he starts talking about Anthony Fantano and how he how before they became friends and how he initially saw him as a threat and how he wanted to kill him because of his negative reviews towards his music, and up until 2020 he said something to him that really put a lot of perspective onto Logic, saying how even though he says he critiques him and all that, he still sees him as a very successful artist. He says a lot that helped him get over his self-consciousness to an extent, which fair play, very interesting. There's a particular part in that song that really is like, what the fuck? Okay. It's interesting though, still definitely worth listening. It's after this we get the skit Aaron Judge, who is calling Logic just to say, hey, you're going to be in my town, how about you go up on stage and make some beats and shit. And yeah, it's interesting, but you know, again, replay value. Some of these skits just, nah, I'm not playing that again. It's the track after, Clouds, featuring Langston, Bristol and Curren. Logic already previewed this song before, did a great verse, and I really enjoyed the hook, and the features, I think Langston Bristol did a great secondary verse, and I felt like even though it was an outro verse, I think Curren did a great job. Just compared to the other two, I didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. But yeah, still, I definitely think it was a great track to listen to. I love the hook, I love the beat, and all artists did a very good job. After that, we actually get the only skit that I particularly found funny, that being Michael Raps, where it has Michael Rappaport insulting the shit out of Logic. It's, yeah, it's just actually one of the funniest skits on the album, probably the only funniest skit on the album. After this, we have the song Therapy Music, which Logic also released as a third single for the album. It's Therapy Music featuring Russ. I think it was a very great song and my first experience of listening to Russ, and so definitely a great way to start off with. And I think he did a great job, but I think Logic came in exceptionally well. Not only for his somewhat first verse, but the way he transitions with the beat cuts off and he's still rapping, goes on. Yeah, smashed it. We get a more vulnerable Logic on this track. It's really nice to hear. It's after that we probably get one of the most annoying skits I've ever heard. Not in just this album, but probably in the entire rap genre itself. Where we have Tony Revolori, who's just leaving these annoying voicemails, just coming off as an asshole who won't fuck off. It's like, oh Logic, I'm here, oh Logic, you can let me in, it's me, Tony Revolori. It's like, oh god, when will this end? It's too long of a skit, it's not funny. I really did not find the humour in it. But after this, Logic redeems himself with Rogue One, a track that he previewed on TikTok not long ago, and honestly, it's a song I've been anticipating, and so you can imagine my disappointment when I saw how long the song was. And it's a shame as what he previewed was more than half of the song, and so what we got left was still enjoyable, not to say that it wasn't. It was very much enjoyable. I just felt it could have been so much more, and I'm really disappointed Logic didn't add a second verse onto it, as I really enjoy it. It's such an amazing beat. I really wish it did add more. Up next is Breath Control featuring Wiz Khalifa. It is the last single he released off of the album, and honestly I think it was a great song. Wiz Khalifa did a very good job on the first verse, having this somewhat choppy way of rapping, doing one bit, let the beat, drop it, anyway, and then Logic comes in with this fast flow, and this is another song that he previewed his entire verse on, but not taking anything away from that. I think it was a very good verse. I think the beat and production on this song was also great. Next is a skit called NEMS, which honestly I found a bit fucking weird. Feels like a copy clone to an extent of Michael Raps, that earlier skit. Unlike Michael Raps, I just didn't really find this one particularly funny. It just yeah, I don't know, it just wasn't that funny to me. It's after this is my least favourite song on the track, called Nardwar featuring Doc D. And the reason I have a few reasons to why it's my least favourite. The first being the length of it being 86 seconds, which I think is a bit of a slap in the face, to be honest. It's not only that, but the first half, more than half of the song is a sample, so no actual rapping's going on. And then what we got from Doc D was nothing more than a promo for Doc D 2, and it's not even that great. I feel it's a bit of a slap in the face for fans, but that's just me. It's after this we get a song called KickStyle, which features iamJMARS, Big Lenbo, and Castro. And my interpretation of this is it's a song somewhat previewing the sound which we're going to get from College Park. And if so, I'm really looking forward to it. I think the first verse where Logic and iamJMARS are somewhat rapping over each other, like finishing each other's sentences, I thought that was great. I think Big Lenbo, my personal opinion, had the best verse on that track. And I think Castro did an exceptional job as well. And the beat gave off some great Wu-Tang vibes. I actually really dug that song. Big Lenbo, reason I give it to him for best verse is he has the line, "Microphone madness, one step beyond." Now, as a Madness fan, I fucking loved it. After this, we get another skit, this one called EarlyBird, which I actually did enjoy. It has Earl Sweatshirt. There's an interview with Zane Lowe, and he's talking about sampling and how he feels how by showing the samples, it shows what you are as a person and your music taste and what you're really into. And it shows quite a lot about you with what you sample. And I really found that quite interesting. It would have been a really good skit if it didn't go on for too long with the instrumental and then have Rainn Wilson just randomly call in with some real corny ass logically joke. But you know, you do what you will. That's just me. Next is 10 Years, which actually I was really anticipating as it has one of my favourite rappers, that being Royce the 5'9". So Logic starts the song off doing a verse about going into Def Jam offices and making a music video for Tetris. Really doing a great job, personally. And then Royce comes in just grabbing his lyrical bag and throwing it in our faces like, "You want this, bitch? You're having it." Honestly, I think he did a great job. And it's actually quite nice to hear Royce rap again. It's been some time. Ever since the fiasco between him and Lupe, yeah, we haven't really heard him rap, so it's nice that he shows on this track that he still has it. Next is Porter 1 featuring the RZA, which honestly I love this song not only just for the beat and sample, which it samples the RZA himself with Bring the Ruckus from the very first Wu-Tang album. My one concern is I thought that when it says featuring RZA, it would actually mean the sample rather than the actual feature, and I was so happy that that was not the case. So after this we get a skit called NeedleDrop, where Anthony Fantano himself is leaving a voicemail for Logic asking what he would want from a skit from NeedleDrop, not knowing in reality that this phone call, this voicemail will be the skit. The beginning where he sounds like Porky Pig with his stuttering is interesting, but after that, after the skit we get another track called Introducing Nezi, where Logic brings out this new underground TikTok rapper. Before introducing her, talks about what he as an artist can do after reaching such high goals. Why not use your platform and status to shine a spotlight on those who are just starting out and who have the talent but not necessarily are getting the recognition they deserve. Hence why he finds this woman on Nigeria who's on TikTok and gives her a spotlight and gives her a verse. And honestly, I think she does a very good job on this verse. I'd say she's one of the very few artists on this album to outshine Logic. Not to say that all these artists were bad. I think all these artists were just as good as Logic. I think Logic at times peaked. I'd say she did a very good job. It's after this we get the track Orville featuring Like, Blue and Exile. This was also the 5th single Logic released for the album. It starts off with Logic just digging into his nerd shit, talking about like obviously the Orville, the Seth MacFarlane show, talking about Greek mythology, talking about Limitless, but ends it with probably one of the best lines on the track. Even if you're standing on top of my grave, you're never topping me. Ooh! Afterwards, I think the feature artist did a great job. The mini hook that Like and Blue did, I thought was amazing. And then they did a verse together, and I thought, honestly, they did a great job. And it's the 3rd verse that it took me a while to get into personally, but still a great track overall. I think the beat produced brilliantly. I don't know who's doing all these beats, but shout out to them, they're doing an exceptional job. Track 26, Carnival featuring AZ. AZ had this amazing flow on this track, just so smooth, just damn. Really good, did a great job, and then Logic comes in, and the first half of his verse is astonishing. Some of the lines cracked me up, like Black and White like Clerks. Like, I know he's a Kevin Smith fan, so that's quite funny as well. I really enjoyed the majority of that verse. It's the second half, it bothered me as it's a verse he's reusing for the second time. Now, I've now heard this verse 3 times. First time was when he was playing unreleased music on his Twitch. And so, fair play. And when I heard it the second time, which he released for Magic, he did a song that he released on YouTube that's for his Magic album called Mars Only Part 3. And so I'm a bit confused as to why he's done it a third time. Understandable for the first time, I'm a bit confused as to why he's done it on here. Maybe there's something happening with the Magic album, unknown. I'm just saying it's a bit odd, it kind of, yeah. I wouldn't say it ruined the track for me, I definitely loved the track, it just made me go, oh okay, you're doing this one again? But no, still a great track. Up next is the last skit of the album, that being Lena's Thoughts, where we're getting this woman called Lena who is just talking about how she feels the album is and maybe making comparisons with her own line of work and how she doesn't want to make the audience go, oh okay, that's cool. I'm like, oh okay. Make them more interested, not trying to people please. That's how I interpret it, I could be completely wrong. Up next is Vinyl Days, the titular track, and I believe the 4th single for the album, where we get Logic in his lyrical miracle bag, and not only that, but getting scratches off the famous producer DJ Premier. He didn't produce it, he just gave some scratches at the very end, you can hear that. Six produced the beat. I initially had some issues with this song, as it felt like it's kind of a contradictory thing. As well as I think most of these songs on this album do feel a bit short, this was the only song that felt that it went on too long at first listen, but after a few more listens it did grow on me, and honestly I think it's great. Logic's just been really lyrical miracle on this, not in a bad way. I know many people hate that phrase, but I mean it in a good way. It's after this we technically get the last track of the album, which is I Guess I Love It featuring The Game. Now, I do have a few issues with this song, but I'm going to talk about the good things first. The first being that I think Logic did exceptionally well, not only with his verse, but he did some singing at the end, which actually was quite good. I know I've said some negative stuff about his singing in the past on my BT3 review. But yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed this, and it was the highlight of the song, weirdly enough. And whoever made these beats, you are not getting paid enough. Did an exceptional job. Even though there's 3 beats on the song and I really preferred the first one, each one still sounded great. Shout out to whoever did that. My main problem with the song, which some may disagree with, is the feature The Game, who I feel like the first 4 bars were quite interesting, but afterwards I personally felt it became a terrible song afterwards, his part anyway, as he was just name dropping for the sake of name dropping, and whilst I know he is known for that, at least be clever with it. There was no creativity or even like cleverness with it, to me anyway. I also thought he wasn't having much energy with it. He sounded very tired and made it a very boring verse, and it's 50 seconds that I really wish I could get back. And what's worse is he's got an album coming out. It was supposed to come out on the same day that Vinyl Days was, but he delayed it by 2 weeks. And so if this is how he sounds on a feature, God knows what he's going to sound on his album. So not only do I find it annoying about that, I'm annoyed at Game for his terrible verse, but I'm more annoyed at Logic that he allowed such garbage onto this song, as afterwards it's really good. It's upsetting. And then the last track, Sayonara, which Logic is just saying thank you to all the people who helped him from the very beginning to the very end. And I respect it, I really respect it. Personally, I know I'm not going to go back to this song. For replay value, I know it's self-indulgent, it's his album, fair play. Just at times you got to think about the fans, and I don't think a lot of the fans are going to be going back to this track. That's just me. I do respect it though, I really do, even if he is borrowing from the likes of J. Cole and Kanye West, who have done this idea before him. So yeah, that's Vinyl Days. Now, I do think this album is good, I just feel like it could be improved, as I felt like certain tracks were a bit shorter than they should have been. I feel like some of them could have had more added to it. I feel like this album could have been a very tight 17 to 20 tracks if he cut off some of the skits and cut off some of these quite short songs and take those and work upon them. That's me personally. As well as I wish Logic had more to say, as there's 3 3 to 4 main subjects he tackles throughout this entire album. That is being Unretired, which I understand is his first album out of retirement, so fair play, he's got that. Being a Dad, which, fair enough, he's only been a dad recently in the 2 years. And his Childhood, which throughout majority of his music we have heard about. We have heard so much about Logic's childhood. We're kind of a close friend to this point. And the subject which he does talk about the most is getting hated on for retiring and for growing up in the rap game. And fair enough, there's so much he could dive into within his life. But aside from all of that, production does not get talked about enough. The beats on this album, there's not one that I would claim is off-putting by any means necessary. Even the skits, their beats were great to listen to. And Logic, putting aside my criticisms of him, he's still able to rap. He really puts the energy into all of these songs, no matter what he's talking about. And there are moments of vulnerability, which is really nice to hear. So with that being said, is this album good? It is good, I just think it could be better. With rating, I would give it a solid 7.5 out of 10, but that is able to change. Now, when it comes to recommendations, of course I recommend his entire discography, but when it comes to his feature game, I'd say there's one particular feature he did that stands out completely. Now, it was in the year which was Logic's most criticised year. So it's not only the year which he dropped a somewhat criticised and controversial and subpar album, that being Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, he also did a feature with French Montana, which split fans accordingly of lazy bars and just somewhat mocking what he did with the 1-800 song. But people forget of the absolute bang of a verse he did on ISIS with Joyner Lucas, outshining him completely, and he really did go into his lyrical bang and do an astonishing job. Honestly, it doesn't get talked about enough. I think if you are a Logic fan, you haven't heard this song, please go listen. Or even if you are a Logic fan, go listen to it again. Show it some more appreciation. It definitely deserves it. Alright, that is my Valdays review album.